Are the lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? You have to know what the slope is in order to figure this out. You also need to know, with a parallel slope, is it going to be the same or is it going to be opposite inverse? So parallel slopes have the same slope. Perpendicular is opposite inverse. What opposite inverse means is you change the sign from positive to negative, or from negative to positive, and you flip the fraction upside down. And if it doesn't have the same slope, and if it doesn't have the opposite inverse slope, then it is neither. So looking at this first one here, I need to find my slope. So I see that this first equation of this first example looks like y equals mx plus b. That makes it really super easy to find out what my slope is. My slope for the first equation is 2/9. I'm going to write that down. Slope for the first equation equals 2/9. The second equation is very similar to that y equals mx plus b, except that b is equal to 0. So now I can see what my slope is for my second equation. Slope for the second equation equals negative 2/9. So now I found out my two slopes, and I have to compare them. Are they the same numbers? I have a 2 on the top, I have a 9 on the bottom. So far so good. That is a positive number. That is a negative number. So the answer is neither. Why is it not perpendicular? I have the same fraction, the same number part of it. 2/9, 2/9. That's the same. Perpendicular has inverse as well as opposite. So this would be 2/9 and 9/2. But that's not flipped over, so therefore it's not perpendicular. So it's neither. Looking at my second example here. Negative x plus 2y equals negative 2. That definitely does not look like y equals mx plus b. So I am going to make it look like that. I need to make room first, though. Negative x plus 2y equals negative 2. To make it look like y equals mx plus b, I have to solve for y. So that means that I have to move my added or subtracted things away first. I have a negative x. First thing I need to do then is add the x. What I do on one side of the equal sign, I do on the other. So now I have 2y equals positive x minus 2. I'm not allowed to combine them because I have to do multiplying before I can do dividing, and I don't know what x is, so I just have x minus 2. Y is not alone yet. Still has this 2 being multiplied by it. So I'm going to get rid of that by multiplying by 1/2. going to multiply this entire other side by 1/2. If you want to say divide by 2, you can say divide by 2. So now I have y equals 1/2 times x, 1/2 x, minus 1/2 times 2. Type it on your calculator. 1. Does this look like y equals mx plus b? Yes. Now I can see what m is. M is 1/2. And that's for my first equation, so I put that little 1 down there. I have to solve my second one now. Make it look like y equals mx plus b. So, solving for y, I have to get rid of my 3 first. So I'm subtracting 3. What I do on one side of the equal sign, I do on the other. Now I have 2x equals, sorry, wrong, my mistake. 2x minus 3 equals 4y. Is y alone yet? No. I need to divide by that 4. So I'm dividing by 4. Divide by 4. Divide the whole thing by 4. So now I have 2 divided by 4. Type it on your calculator if you need to. 1/2. That has the x with it. Minus 3 divided by 4. I'm going to leave that as just plain old 3/4. Equals, the 4 divided 4 cancels out, and I'm left with y. Does this look like y equals mx plus b? Kind of. Close enough. Y equals mx plus b. I can see what my m is. M is 1/2. So my m for my second equation equals 1/2. When you are doing these problems for homework, when you are practicing for the test with these, I want you to write down my slope for my first equation is, and what is your slope? I want you to write down my slope for my second equation is, and what is that slope? Because then you don't have to keep going back through all of your scratch work and try to figure out which one was what. You have it written down right there for you. So now that we have our 2 slopes, now we can decide, is it parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Let's start with parallel because that's the easiest one to figure out. Parallel means same slope. Slope is 1/2. Slope is 1/2. Positive. Positive. Exactly the same. So I have same slope, which tells me lines are parallel. And there's my answer for that question. Are the lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? First equation, 6 plus 4x equals 3y. And the second equation, 3x plus 4y equals 8. I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing this. First way I'm going to show you is different from how I showed you the other 2. I'm going to make these both look like ax plus by equals c. I'm going to take my 4x here, and I'm going to move it to the other side of the equal sign. So I'm going to subtract 4x. So now I have 6 equals negative 4x plus 3y. When you're writing these equations, typically you want to have the letters in alphabetic order. That's why I put the x before the y. So the negative from the minus that I was doing here. The plus sign is because this was a positive number there. So now I have this equation, and I have that equation. And I'm going to look only at the part that I have the letters in. So I have negative 4x plus 3y, and I have 3x plus 4y. That is what I'm focused on. I'm not focused on the constant over here or the constant over there. So for those of you that are a little bit more advanced with this math, you will be seeing this general form, and you need to know how to recognize right off parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So what I'm looking at here, I'm looking for my signs. Are they the same? Or is there a different sign in there? So I have a positive there, a negative there. Positive and positive. I have only one negative. So my signs are different. Because my signs are different, that's telling me that it's not going to be parallel. So now I have to figure out, is it perpendicular or is it neither? So for the other thing, so that was the opposite part of the perpendicular statement. My signs are opposites, positive, negative. The other part of it is inverse. That means like flip the fraction type thing. It also means flip my numbers. So I have my 4 and my 3, and then I have my 3 and my 4. So I have flipped my numbers. I check the signs first because it's the easier thing to check. And I check the flipped numbers next. I see that they are flipped. That is telling me, because I already know this part, that is telling me then they are perpendicular. So this is the way that you would do it if you were a little bit more advanced. If you have to take higher levels of math, if you have to go on with your math beyond this class, you will want to learn this way as a shortcut. The other way. Let's make room here. I already know my answer is perpendicular. So for the other way of doing this, I want to make it look like y equals mx plus b. So to make this one look like y equals mx plus b, there's my equal sign there, I need to get rid of that 3. So I'm going to divide by 3. Divide every term in the problem by 3. So now I have 6 divided by 3 is 2. Plus sign. 4 divided by 3, I'm going to leave it as 4/3. That has the x with it. Equals 3 divided 3 cancels out, I'm left with y. So now I have my y equals mx plus b. So I see here that my first slope is 4/3. Slope 1 equals 4/3. Looking at my second equation, I want to make that also look like y equals mx plus b. So I look on the side where my y is. I want to get the y completely alone, because that's what it calls for up here. I have to follow my order of operations backwards. So I have to get rid of the add subtract first, which means I get rid of the 3x first. So minus 3x, minus 3x. I have my positive 4y here, equals. Put my letter first because I want it to be first here. So negative 3x. That is a positive 8. So the positive magically becomes a plus sign, and the 8. Is the y completely alone yet? Not yet. I need to get rid of the 4. Divide the 4 out. Divide every term in the problem by 4. 4 cancels 4, I have y, equals negative 3/4 x plus 8/4, 2. Now this looks like y equals mx plus b. And I can see that m, for my second equation, is negative 3/4. So I have my slope for my first equation, I have my slope for my second equation. Now I have to figure out, is it parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Parallel, same slope. Positive, negative. Not the same slope. So not parallel. I have my opposite part here, the positive, negative. Now I have to check for the inverse part, flip the fraction part. 4 is on top, 4 is on the bottom. So far so good. 3 is on the bottom, 3 is on top. So my fraction has been flipped upside down. It goes from 4/3 to 3/4. So these are perpendicular. And I do not expect you to read my writing beyond the PERP, because that is enough to get the idea across that it's perpendicular.